So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital
Yeah,
Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. Super excited that my guest today is the iconic Mark Raffety. How are you, Mark?
pretty good. Thank you very much.
No, it's an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. As I say, we've got so much to talk about. I mean, obviously, we will talk about Neighbours, but I mean, I did a bit of research. I believe you were originally from the UK. So, sort of, what are your sort of memories of sort of the UK?
Oh, my memories of the well, I was memories of the UK. Well, I was born in Portsmouth, and I left there when I was like tiny, like probably about I think two or something like that. So I don't remember a lot. I remember a bit about the back garden. I remember, the hazy memories of a 2-year-old. Then we moved around the country a little bit. I guess my strongest memories were I used to live uh, on a housing estate in Raynham, in Kent. So we moved around, then we sort of landed there. And yeah, what do I remember? God, when you start looking back, you kind of you don't know whether you're imagining it or remembering. Um, I remember being in love with a Maltese girl when I was about when I was about 7. Because there were a lot of army kids on our estate, and she was the daughter of a guy who served in Malta. I remember her. I don't remember her name, but I remember. Yeah, I think that was a strong memory. Look, I remember school times. Um, God, we could. I could get into all sorts of things. I can remember, playing on building sites and stealing from shops and shit. The normal stuff. Fighting with my mates. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, acting became a love of yours. Do you remember where the bug for acting came from? Do you remember sort of how did you know that that was where you wanted to take your career?
Well, again, I've never had a, I've never been trained formally as an actor, so I didn't come at it from that route. Um, I was in New Zealand. I lived in New Zealand for a fair while, and uh, my girlfriend at the time was a receptionist at a modeling agency. They also handled commercials and stuff like that. And she got sick of me just lying around on the couch, like a slug. Um, at that point, and she just said, "Look, Mark, you should go in and audition for this company and this production agency." And so I went in and I got the gig. I didn't show up because I just thought, "Fuck this." Sorry, can I swear?
That's
Um,
fine.
oh, okay. Yeah, and they gave me a second chance essentially, and I got the second gig. And long story short, it was a commercial. And I can remember being on the set and seeing all the production crew around me. I guess I was the star of the commercial, the lead role in the commercial. So uh, all the shots were centered around me. It sounds kind of egotistical, but it was like, it felt like home, to be honest. For the first time, I just felt really good being amongst the chaos or the chaotic organization of a film set. I just felt really good, and it just sort of went from there. I got spotted in that, and somebody else offered me a gig. I kept on auditioning for other commercials and stuff, and then from there I got a stage play, and that was like I think for about 4 weeks or something. And that was really it. Really, I was just like on stage every night and doing my thing, and yeah, it was just great. So it's just one of those things. I guess I just landed in it, and I could do it. And I've always loved movies, and yeah, I just started studying what people did in movies, and I could practice it because I was getting the gigs. And yeah, it just evolved really. I come from an arts background. I take photographs and I paint, and I also make films myself. and so I'm sort of firmly embedded in the creative side of being an artist, and yeah, it was just home really. And I don't think I'm cut out to do anything else really. From where I came from, either it's just the usual story. You come from a place in England where it's a little bit, I don't know, the kids don't do much else. You go work in a factory or go become a cop or whatever, or go the other side, or play soccer or whatever. I guess acting is a way to do something that's more fun than your conventional lifestyle. I guess I just loved it, man. I just loved it. That's all it is. It's just, I just dig it.
Now, obviously, in the year 2000, your life kind of changed, obviously, when Neighbours came along.
Yeah.
How did that come about for you? How did you, get the role on Neighbours? And had you been a fan before the show? Had you ever seen it before?
Nah, nah. I'm not really it's not my demographic. I tend to, for a start, I tend to like movies and but a little bit more challenging, I guess. I'm not shitting on Neighbours. I think Neighbours is cool. What it does is really good. It's really really good. But at that time, I was more interested in. I mean, I was gutted when David Lynch died just before. Like he was one of my, just a hero of mine, David Lynch, and I guess areas of filmmaking that are a bit more. I don't know. I guess challenging is the word for it. So Neighbours wasn't really in that sort of ballpark, but I love acting. So yeah, at the time, I think I got offered another gig and Neighbours. I can't remember, to be honest, because it's a fair while ago. How I got the gig was like they were looking for I think they were developing a character or something, and then I went and auditioned and obviously got the gig. Um, yeah, there's a funny story. When I first got on the show, it was like um, I was a good guy, and they signed me up for 2 years or 2.5 years or something like that. The first go round, and I was like, oh my god, I think I'm going to lose my mind if I'm going to be playing a good guy. Like I can't do this for 2 years. It was oh gee. So I started putting in little behavioral things that would kind of a bit more ambiguity to my character, just to keep it interesting. And the writers locked in on some of those things. They're always one of the good things about Neighbours is they're very reflexive. They see what you do and they build. They can build off what you give them. And thankfully, they started noticing what I was doing. Excuse me, I've got a bit of flu. Yeah, they started noticing what I was doing and started gradually. Darcy started morphing into this more interesting character, and I was just so grateful. I can remember the guys at the time were like, "Oh man, you're getting all these good storylines." Oh mate, yeah. Pays to be misunderstood. You get quite good, challenging storylines. They also locked into a bit of there were comedic things I could do. It was just beautiful from an acting perspective. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it, man. I loved those. My initial run on Neighbours was very very cool.
And
Yeah.
obviously getting to work with the likes of, Jackie Woodburn, Alan Fletcher, and have them as your kind of on-screen family. That must have
Oh
been
my
great.
God. Oh yeah. Look, now I'm back. Right, back for a wee while. Working with Alan and Jackie in particular is just it's just fucking awesome, man. They are like they're utter pros. They're like totally professional, but they're also so fun. They're loose. They can really do this shit. I mean, they've been doing it for years, right? So they make it look so easy. And when you're working a scene with them, they're always trying to make the scene better. They're always trying to put in their bid, and they want to interested in what you think. And when you're in a huddle with them and the director, you don't have a lot of time to shoot a scene. Let me just tell you that. You have about between 20 and 50 minutes to shoot a scene. So you're working at pace. And when you're working with guys like that, it's a joy. Um, they're really good listeners. To be a good actor, you've got to be a really good listener. And so you get a bunch of us all listening hard to each other, and we're playing the, we're in there. It's just awesome. Jackie and Alton, I cannot speak highly enough of those guys. They're just, they're great. And also, since I've been on the show, I've had a bit to do with Steph and Dennis. Again, awesome to play with. And, they're just, when you're working with good actors, it's the funnest day you can have. The only thing you've got to be really on your game. You've got to be really prepared, and then you can all play. They're just awesome, man. Alan and Jackie, fantastic.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
we'll briefly go back to the first run for yourself because obviously, amazing people you got to work with then as well. I mean, the likes of Madeline West, Natalie Bassingthwaighte, obviously, who was around sort of when you came back for the
yeah,
second
yeah,
time. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
getting to do those quite fun storylines, kind of when he became that bit more evil. That like you were saying, that must have just
Not
been a joy.
evil. It's not evil. He's a
Misunderstood,
misunderstood character.
misunderstood.
I mean, you can search the world for evil, and I wouldn't put Darcy in that bracket. Um, what was it like working with Maddie and and Nat? Yeah, it was cool. Um, uh, yeah. Oh, also Krista Vendi. She's a very interesting character. She's her quirkiness comes across on screen. When you're working with her, she's very honest, very quirky sort of actor. Look, you work with different sorts of actors all the time on the show because there was quite a high turnaround of guest characters and all that sort of stuff. Um, I can look. The bottom line is, I really dug it. I really enjoyed being on part of the cast at that point. Um, I don't really think about it very much, to be honest. I don't think about that first time. It's sort of like you do a gig, you do it, and then you move on, you do other stuff. Um, so some of the questions you can ask me, I'm kind of like, ooh, what was that like? I can just remember, uh, yeah, it was all good, man. You know, every time you go up, every time you do a scene, at least from my philosophy, you try and do the best you can, and you try and make that scene as real and as resonant as possible. And I think that's what everyone tries to do on the show. And those guys were no different. It was just a bunch of actors trying to do some good shit. Yeah.
Now, how did the return come about? Because obviously we know you're back for the 40th anniversary. So, I
Mm.
mean, how, when did they approach you about coming back and did you take much convincing?
Nah, it didn't take much convincing at all. I really dug the Darcy character. And I just remember how creative it was from my perspective. And Neighbours is a show where, depending on who you're working with and your level of commitment and talent, I guess, and your ability to do the gig, you can have a lot of creative input in terms of the way your character, you know, develops. Um, and I had memories of that. I had memories of how, uh, it was a happy time for me to be not just spewing the lines out, but actually really being part of it. So I thought, yeah, that'd be cool to do that again. Um, I heard that they've been wanting me to get me back on the show for about a decade, and for different reasons, things weren't, I guess the stars didn't align. Um, what really sold it for me was when I went in and I had a meeting with the main storyline, a guy called Shane, uh, who again is awesome, and he ran me through the story arc of my return, and from go to woe. And to be honest, I was like blown away. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. I just couldn't wait to get at it. I could not wait to actually see if I could do justice to the storyline that given me. Um, that was the big hook. To be honest, it was just like, I've got to do this. This is. I didn't want to go back to the show and have a shitty little storyline and just go on and for 2 or 3 weeks and be a token, whatever. I really, if I was going to go back, I wanted to go back come back with a vengeance. And I can remember talking to a mate of mine. They sort of offered me the gig, and I was, are you interested? I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I was just pissing around with a friend of mine, just talking about possible storylines and how cool it would be if this happened and that happened. We kind of went through this kind of scenario on the phone, and then we're having a good laugh about it. And then, you know what? Most of that stuff actually is in the storyline. So I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So yeah, look, I'm not going on a bit. It's just like, yeah, I was just like blown away by what they had planned for the character. And I was just so happy to get back and put the old boots on and yeah, let's go for it. Yeah,
And
it's just
at the point that you obviously went back, did you know that Krista was also coming back? And what's it been like working with her again?
all right. Uh, I knew that she was going to be part of the storyline uh, from that initial meeting with Shane. Um, the outline, you've got to understand when the storyliners do an outline, there can be some of the parts of the storyline can be quite shaped in detail, and some can be sketched in. I knew she was going to come back at a certain point in that storyline, but obviously I was one of the things you do when you're working. For me anyway, everyone has their own method, but I try to be very much in the moment. I don't try and once they told me what the storyline was, I was like, cool. And then when I'm in it and I'm doing it, I tend to be very much in the moment. I'm not trying to think in advance who's coming on the show, what's going to happen. And then when Krista did finally rock up, it was just fantastic. Oh yeah, I really dig that woman. She's yeah, we had a lot of fun, and like I said, she's very quirky, um, very honest actor, and so working with her is always surprising. She in the middle of a take, she can, she can do surprising things, and it just enlivens the scene, and yeah, it was great, man. It was really really cool working with Krista.
And
Yeah.
it must be quite an honor to know that they've won, that they brought you back for the 40th anniversary. The show has been going for 40 years, and to be a part of celebrating the history of the show, that must be quite nice.
Oh, mate. Look, it's one of those things where yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely, fuck yeah, it's just great. Um, and I was blown away that they thought so highly of the character that they would give this big fat storyline in the middle of the 40th, year. So yeah, I was like, God damn, that's awesome. But having said that, my job, I don't think about that when I'm doing my job is to just embody, be that character as strongly as possible, moment by moment, scene by scene, and then what happens after that, we'll see what happens. If you put too much pressure on yourself, you just think, oh shit, this is the 40th anniversary, this is this is that, this is this. It gets into your head a little bit, and I don't think it's got nothing to do with acting. It's got nothing to do with it. When you're on the set and you're doing the scenes, all that bollocks, you can just forget about that because they'll just get in your way. So much as I'm like really, really stoked and I can see like far out, man, that how lucky is this? How awesome is this? I don't think about it. I'll probably think about it more when I've finished. Like I've got a few more weeks next month, and then that part of the storyline's done. So then after that, I can sort of see, like it goes to air. My first eps go to air in March. And we'll see if the fans dig it. We'll see if I'm so self-critical, and I always want to do better, and I always want to, I always kind of like, I'm always sweating it. I'm always wanting to sort of try and improve things, or. So At the moment, yeah, it's really cool. It's fantastic, and goddamn, yeah, it's such a privilege. Don't get me wrong, man. It's a privilege, and the fact that you're calling me from England, you know what I mean? It's just awesome. So, but yeah, to me, the bottom line is, I really want anybody who watches the show, if they hook into my storyline, is to just get hooked into Darcy and see what the fuck this guy's doing. What's going on? What I want them to see, want them to be kind of like entertained and hooked in. And there's always a risk when you do something. It's like how it's going to be received. You've got no control over. You know what I mean? So much as it's like I said, it's a privilege to be part of the 40th year, and that's awesome. God damn, I really hope that my shit lands. I hope people dig it.
I mean, I'm super excited to see these episodes. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Oh, look, I hope so, man. I hope so.
I mean, obviously, one of the things I wanted to sort of ask is, when you join a show like Neighbours, your notoriety does skyrocket. How did, what was that like for you, getting used to people recognizing you and sort of the fame sort of side of it? Was that something you liked, or was that a bit weird?
Well, fame, come on. I mean, famous is Tom Cruise. Famous is global, right? Not Neighbours. Neighbours isn't fame. Fame is that's something else. My brush with a little bit of celebrity, I'm very private and I'm quite shy, to be honest. And when I'm walking around, like I said, I like taking photographs. I'm interested in people, and I'm interested in just observing and absorbing. And sometimes, if people recognize if you're looking at them, they're looking at you, but with a different angle. It can be a bit weird. Um, I can't say I'm a big fan of that, to be honest. Um, like, if you put a cabbage on television, people are going to recognize the cabbage, right? So that's just part of the medium. However, having said that, if somebody comes up and says, "Oh, instead of just going, oh, Darcy, mate," but instead they come up and they go, "Oh man, I really dug your acting," or whatever. Then I'm like, "Oh, wow, thank you so much." That's a buzz. Um, but they're just because you're on telly or what's it now being streamed or whatever. Um, I don't know. It's a bit weird. Like I said, I'm not a big fan because I'm quite shy. But yeah, yeah. But you can get a better seat in a restaurant, that's for sure. And one of the weird things is that sometimes people do try and they kind of think you're the character. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like they might think that I'm this. I mean, I'm a weird dude for sure. Mark I'm a bit weird, but I'm not Darcy weird, And some people get a little confused. They know in about 30 seconds I'm not that guy, but sometimes that can be a bit strange. Yeah. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, no, that completely answers the question. Now, I mean, obviously, outside of Neighbours, what else have you been up to? I know you said, a bit of photography as well, but kind of, have you got anything else sort of bubbling away in the background at the moment?
Um, well, at the moment, yeah, I'm working on some photographic projects. I take a lot of portraits. I'm very, like I said, I'm very interested in people. Um, uh, I got a little project where I photograph doors, believe it or not, in in lockdown. I couldn't go out and shoot people. What I tend to do is like I shoot just people I meet and stuff. I find it beautiful to get these kind of awesome portraits. When I couldn't really go out, I used to go wandering around, and then I was just started shooting doors, like doors with graffiti, doors that I found interesting. It sounds a bit strange, but I've had a lot of good responses. So I'm going to be doing a project, maybe a book, and some limited edition prints with my doors and stuff as well. So I've got that. Um, I taught for a long time. I taught film, like directing and acting. Like I said, I make films and I've also taught. I find that that to be quite gratifying. You know, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. Excuse me. You learn a lot teaching. So I'm very passionate about film and TV and acting. So I was able to channel that into teaching. I'm also a parent, and parenting is a huge part of my life. So yeah, I keep pretty busy doing stuff like that.
And I mean, if anyone wants to
And
sort
you're
of,
acting every now and then.
and I mean, if anyone wants to check out any of your work, is there somewhere they can go to, a website they can go to see more of your stuff?
Uh, yeah, there is. Well, I've got Instagram. I've got a couple of Instagram accounts. I mean, I take photographs like all the time. Different. Or I could send you a couple of links, man. I mean, it's a pain. I paint in the butt. My doors Instagram is. I made it private. I don't know. Like I said, I could send you some links. Um, I think you got hold of me through my Mark Raffety account,
Yeah.
which isn't, it's a photographic account, but it's just there, my kind of off that, more phone photos and stuff. Um, I've got I've got an Instagram one, which I might open up again, but because I'm collating my work now, um, I'm sort of not kind of putting it out in the public. I'm going to put it out via other means, I guess, with limited edition prints and that sort of stuff, and rejig um, my photographic presence online. I think it's just yeah. So I mean, I could send you a couple of links, man. To spell out my Instagram handles are just I've just put lots of underscores and shit. It's just painful to spell it out. Oh my god!
Now,
But I could,
I mean, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Of course, people need to keep watching Neighbours. Here in the UK, people can stream it from Amazon Prime Monday to Thursday from 7 a.m. But as I say, Mark, it has been
7 a.m.
yeah,
7
7
a.m. in the
a.m.
morning.
Yeah, you can watch it anytime, anytime. You don't have to watch it that early if you don't want
Oh,
to.
right.
But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Of course, keep safe, and we're looking forward to seeing what's going to come for Darcy.
Oh, well, thanks. Are you a Matthew or are you a Matt? Can I call you Matt?
Yeah, I say I'm Matthew or Matt. I'm happy either way,
Oh,
really.
yeah. Well, look, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for taking the interest. And hey, guys in the UK, yeah, we'll see what happens, and hopefully you enjoy Darcy.